Quiet on the set!
There we go, that worked. That was awesome. Hi everybody, thank you so much for coming to this year's Filmmakers panel. I'm the moderator, Mitchell Bard. I want to start by saying a big thank you to Belmore Movies and Showplace, Annie and Henry, for sponsoring the breakfast and everything else that we do. So thank you so much for coming. I'm going to allow the filmmakers, we have 7 filmmakers. Is Robert Getty here? Okay, so we have 7 filmmakers here, and I'm going to ask each one of them to tell us your name, the name of your movie, and when the screening will be or was, because I know it's different for different people. So we'll start with Scott.
Hi, everybody. It's Scott W. Perry. My film Follower played here at Long Island International Film Expo last night at 6:30 p.m.
Hi, Melissa Skirboll. I directed and co-wrote Overdue, which is playing today at 4 p.m. And I have a script in the script competition that was a runner-up.
Hi, my name is Ken Frank. My feature, My Sister's Wedding, played here yesterday at 11.
Hello, my name is Christopher Fox. My feature is Rub. It's playing tonight at 9 o'clock.
Hi, my name is Asbirg Naranjo. I'm here with The Neighbor, and it had his world premiere on Wednesday night at 9:15.
I'm Damas from Long Island. My film is called Speak to Me. It's a short film about mental health. It played on Thursday.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Minerva, and my film, which is a feature documentary called Summer Within, screened on Thursday.
So one thing I like to start on for these panels often is, making a film is art, right? It requires an unbelievable amount of time and effort and dedication. And so something has gotten into each one of these people that they wanted to tell a story about something. And I'd like to know what caused you to want to make this film. What's the inspiration for this film that's playing here today? So anyone could jump in, or we can go on a line, whatever. Go ahead, Kurt. Go ahead.
I was talking to you, and
Oh yeah.
Volunteer to go first.
I'm on first.
It's okay. No, it's okay. I'm ready. It's fine. Well, my film is an autobiographical documentary that talks about the search for belonging as a queer and trans Italian American person. And so in the film, I go to Italy and I discover an ancient transgender tradition. I don't want to tell you how that affects my character in the film because that would be giving it away. But for me, it was about not ever seeing my story represented on TV or in books or anywhere. The idea that somebody could be queer, trans, and also Italian American was unheard of for me. And so I started to do my own research, and the moments of magic that unfolded made me want to start recording. And this was my first feature. I made other short films, but so I just had to tell a story.
The question was, why did we lose our minds, spend all our money?
That is one way to put it.
I was just making sure. That's
You're right on it.
My creative journey started as an artist. I toured the world as an independent music artist. No record label, no agent, anything. I toured with my friends. I was always a creative, always writing. I used to make music videos that would be like short movies. So my friend always told me, this is a movie, right? This is a movie, right? Anyway, that same friend, he toured with me. I'd wake up next to him 6 months straight. Passed away last year at 30 years old. In January last year, he passed away. It was tough for me because you don't expect the most healthy one of your friends to pass away. I was meditating after crying like an insane little baby, crying and snot on my face. I had to take a shower. In the shower, I meditate. I was meditating. I said it would be tough if I didn't have a support system. I have a wife. I have 3 children. I have very good friends. One of them sitting right there filming me like a proud mom. That's Trevor. He's also my co-director, co-writer. Put your hands together for Trevor. popped out of the shower after my meditation, and my phone went off, and it was actually Trevor. He said, "What are you doing?" He also lost his best friend, one of our circle. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm hanging out." I didn't tell him I'm crying like a baby and snot is like bleeding out my nose. But he's like, "Come over, go over there." My other friend Jordan is there. We drink, we make fun of each other, we cry, we make fun of our friend who passed. We talk about how much we missed him. And I went home refreshed, like, wow, that was my therapy. But then I had the realization of what would it be like if I didn't have somebody to speak to. And in that time, while I was meditating, I was like, I can empathize with somebody who doesn't want to be on earth anymore. And that's what the film is about, that pain and how it could look if somebody feels like they can't be vulnerable. And it's about a friendship, and they're dealing with those struggles, and also dealing with the struggles of feeling like I have to be a man, I have to be strong. And yeah, that's what made me make the movie. I always wanted to make a movie. I always told my friend Barry, who passed away, that I would make movies. So it was like, either do it now or don't, and I did.
Are you acting in this group?
No, I'm not. Sorry.
It's all good.
Follow that.
Yeah, actually on Wednesday we were talking and we kind of said to each other, wow, we're here and both people died. It's
Yeah,
like,
tough.
we really like, yeah.
Good.
So we're friends now.
Yeah, we
I
are.
think. So The Neighbor is my third short film. I made a short documentary in 2012, a very short film, 3 minutes, in 2014. And then kind of life happened. I did my master's, I needed to work, pay the bills, blah, blah. And I didn't do films. And I think a lot of people can relate to, am I an artist if I'm not producing, if I'm not writing, if it's all in my mind, can I still call myself an artist? And then I went to hospital 2 years ago, and it was like in this moment, okay, what I really want to do is film still. So I was like, universe, if this is something that should be, just open the right doors. So I started writing about my neighbor that I took care of for about a year, who fell sick with dementia really slowly, in a really slow way. And I started writing about it and thinking about it, but it was very clear that I couldn't make a documentary about it because ethical wise it wasn't possible. I couldn't get him to sign something knowing he would forget about it 2 days later, right? So for me it was also clear to just take an anecdote, an episode out of this whole story and show that, because in this short film it already, the relationship between the neighbor and the Paula kind of becomes clearer. And so I applied for funding in Germany. We are very lucky we can apply for funds, but also I didn't go to film school, so I felt very fortunate that they selected my topic. So it was the story that really appealed to them. And now, 4 weeks ago, I just got the notice that they're gonna fund my first feature script that I'm able to write. And also I'm here because of crowdfunding, because as you said, time, blood and tears and money, everything goes into the film. So my friends and family came together, so I'm here for the world premiere of my short, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for selecting The Neighbor.
Congratulations.
Is your feature off the short, or is it two separate things?
No, it's about 2 Nigerian refugees on the German countryside.
Very nice.
I don't know how to follow these two downers. I mean,
Massage parlor.
yeah. So I can relate. Being a musician and being an artist, I was in punk bands touring around the country from my early 20s. Always wanted to get into film, but back in the early 2000s, you needed to have money to make a film. That was always a very hard thing to come across. And then I moved back to New York around 2011 and started my career as a location sound mixer. And then from there, I had tons of short films and scripts I've been writing since I was 18 years old. That the DSLR revolution, boomed around 2009, 2010, and I'm like, okay, I can see other people making films. I'm gonna start making films. So I made a few shorts. They've programmed a couple of them here, which I'm very grateful for over the years. And then, what was it? February of 20. Father's Day, all geared up and ready to go, and then the shutdown happened. And then I took a step back. We were still going to shoot it. And then, just like most of us in life, I started reassessing a lot of things. I said, do I want to keep making shorts, or do I really want to make a feature? I had a few ideas that I was, toying with, and I had a couple unfinished scripts, 60 pages here, 30 pages here. And then, COVID sat in with all of us, and I just started thinking how lonely people are, and how, loneliness and mental health is an issue out there. And then from there, I started modeling my main character, Neil. And then once I started writing him, it just took off, and I wrote the script literally in probably like 4 days, maybe, and started casting from the script. And I worked with a lot of people that I worked with over the years, and it just took on its own beast. People really came together for the film and really enjoyed the script, and it was a family that made the film, and I'm just really happy to be here today. I know, I'm trying to bring it up, but my film is about mental illness as well, so.
Sucks.
Yeah.
You got me with the punk rock drummer thing. We'll talk about that.
Yeah,
There you go.
So coming off the last film I wrote and directed, which was largely about, again, the thing I kind of am hung up on is how individuals construct their identity out of their families, how you kind of emerge from a family and you try to differentiate yourself and try to find what's different about you from your family, and then maybe you get kind of pulled back into it. And I'd done that in a previous film that played here in 2019 called Family Obligations, and then when I got a chance to go back in and make another film, I wanted to kind of look at it from a different angle, and so I started writing this movie, My Sister's Wedding, which was about how the middle child of this family of three finds herself on the day of her sister's wedding trying to quit her family's business and kind of extricate herself from these people, and how everyone in their own way tries to pull her back in. And so, kind of similar to Chris's story, we were set to shoot in May of 2020, and we were, all geared up, and we kept pushing a little, and then we ended up finally shooting in August of 21. So we were a little more than a year delayed on it, but we were fortunate that we had a wonderful cast which we retained from day one, and people stayed committed to the project. And we actually met two of the lead actors that are in the film here with our last film, and LIIFE's been very, very good to us in supporting our work and screening us, and it's great to be back.
So I actually started as an actor. I did not go to film school either. And somewhere along the line I started writing for theater and then started directing theater, which is where I met my partner, Penny Jackson, who, this is our third project that we've co-produced and worked on together. When we shut down for COVID, I was in the middle of rehearsing 2 plays and post-production on our last film, and then everything shut down and kind of had to go inwards. Penny, towards the summer of 21, came to me with an overdue script that was originally formatted for theater, and talked to me about creating it, for turning it into a film. Loved it. We sat down and co-wrote the screenplay and decided to, it's been 2 years. We're both going crazy. We want to do something. And people talk about make the films that you want to see. There's a lot of Marvel and stuff out there. As a woman of a certain age who is single, this spoke to me. It's about an older woman who finds some hope. And after COVID, finding hope and something a little lighter. We call it a romantic dramedy because there is some drama to it, but we were really looking for those lighter moments, and how at the end you feel like there's a reason to get up in the morning, and that was where I needed to be at that time. So I'm very lucky to have Penny Jackson as a writing partner and producing partner. At 4 o'clock today. At 4 o'clock today.
That's a good producer.
You're hired. Well, I got pressure on me right now. What is the adage? Save the best for last. This is probably not one of those times.
Just you be you. That's all you
Well, hearing all these stories, and I have a story about a man who wants to kill millions of people. So what a better way to
That's awesome.
end a thing
That's
than
hopeful.
that. But no. I've always been involved with film, especially with the community, for a very long time. My first exposure was as a screenwriter. 20 years ago, I had optioned a script for Trigger Street, which was Kevin Spacey's production company. Didn't go anywhere, and neither did he. But you know, unfortunately, but it opened up a lot of doors because when I was involved with it, they were running a short film competition at the same time, and I saw the attention that they were given to it. So I went from being purely a screenwriter to a filmmaker, and I did a lot of short films, particularly in the horror genre. For many years, I worked on a lot of various shorts. 10 years ago, I did a web series about fears and phobias called In Fear Of, which really hit with a lot of people within the horror community. I've been trying to make a feature film version of it for quite some time, and up until 2 years ago, I thought I had secured funding for it, and it fell through. And every time I would try to get funding for it, I would show a product that's 10 years old. And all I would hear from people is, well, you don't really have anything new. And with the way the pandemic hit, as it did with everybody else, I wanted to do something different. And I kind of realized the way that I had been making films up to that point, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. So with a lot of us independent filmmakers, it's like, and I've seen this, it's like, all right, I have an idea on Wednesday, all right, we're free Saturday, let's make the film. And I didn't want to do that. And on another subject matter, I work a lot in media, and I've seen a lot of coverage of cults. And there was one that particularly interested me about the, I think it's called Anexium cult.
Oh yeah.
And one of the people involved with it, actually, I have a writing partner who one script she optioned actually starred Allison Mack.
Wow.
So there was a connection there. And reading more about the intricacies of what this guy went through, and also seeing the similarities of how easily we can get manipulated just through the words of one person, is really what led to me writing Follower. And it was also, that was a challenge for a writer to do it from that perspective. But coming from a background with horror where in many ways you can write horror and it's very good, but you rely a lot on special effects and gore and a lot of things like that, I wanted to create something that was dialogue driven in one location and just prove that it can be done. You can make a captivating film with that. I was fortunate enough that I cast two actors that I'd known for a very long time. Heather Drew, who I'd worked with on a very long time. The other gentleman you might know here, Patrick Devaney, maybe, I don't know. He's working around, but you know, it was my first time working with Patrick. I had known him for 10 years, and we shot the film over the course of a day. But we went through a 6-month process, not just in rehearsal, but in framing and plotting and just getting everything together. And you know, everything that we did before, you know, I kind of became George Costanza. I kind of was like, well, I'm going to do the complete opposite of everything that I did before. And, you know, and I also wanted to tell a good story about how easily, you know, we quickly, in a lot of ways, don't realize we might be getting brainwashed by a lot of these manipulative things that are happening. Especially in a world of deep fake and AI, we don't know exactly what's being told to us, what's being fed to us. And for somebody whose my regular job is to get the news before it becomes the news, I see a lot of that. And that was something I was hoping to portray in this film through the performances of the two great actors that we had with it. And that was fun.
So it's interesting because it seems like there are a lot of people that are, is there any first films here? I think, did anyone say it was your first film? But you had done a lot of other production work.
Me? That was my first feature.
It's your first feature?
First feature, yeah.
And Kurt raised his hand, but not really, because you said you made a bunch of music videos and stuff.
but
Yeah.
first
So it was
film,
the same kind of process. So I wanted to talk about like, so most of you, because you in music videos, you've seen a lot of stuff there. So for purposes of this question, you've all been on a lot of sets before, or at least some sets before. What happened on this set that you either surprised you either in a good way or a bad way? What was a good learning experience, or what was something that was funny, or something that really took you by surprise, or something you had to overcome? Just something interesting about this shoot that was different than other shoots that you've done. Let's start on this side this time.
Well, at Follower, as I said, we rehearsed. You know, lucky that we all knew each other, friends, and we had the opportunity to rehearse. We were fortunate in a way that a lot of other productions aren't. But we had a location, and when we had the location, I thought I had it for 9 hours, and I was like, all right, well, we're going to shoot. We got there about 9 o'clock. We're going to set up like 11, so I was like, all right. So we have till 5, so we have 7 hours, everything like that. And the production facility was great. However, when I told them, okay, we're going to be here, they're like, oh no, you have to leave by 5. So immediately I went to the team. I said, all right, well, we're going to have to cut this short. And we had set in motion a plan. All right, we were originally going to shoot with one camera, but if we had to run into anything like that, we had a backup plan we would have to do too. So the only thing I had to tell the whole crew was, all right, we're going to play a video. And that's all we did. So, you know, we were prepared in that sense. Whereas previous films that I did, I didn't think about doing that. So that was one area where when you're working on a lot of different projects, when you gain little experiences and you deal with that. I was involved with a production last year where I was ADing on it, and it got a little chaotic. And we were running overtime, and it was SAG, and it was a lot of things that we had to do. And some of the actors, because of what you're dealing with, they didn't have a lot of time to rehearse, so you had to take that. I had to help take that time to make sure that they were prepared for it. And it really taught me, when I was on that set, how to be prepared for my own. And the best thing about that day, and I said this in the Q&A last night, is, and this is true, we had till 5 o'clock, we locked that door at 4:59. So we got everything that we needed to do, and we managed to shoot the entire film in 5 hours, which we would not have done if we didn't have that preparation.
So Overdue was a remarkably relaxed shoot experience. It was bizarre. I mean, we had extra time. When we were planning it, we ended up using a bar in Manhattan, in Hell's Kitchen, Brazen Tavern, and they were still closed they weren't open full time. It was early in post-COVID. We were still wearing masks on set when we weren't in front of the camera, and had a COVID person yelling at us through the whole thing. But because they were closed on Monday, we could get it and not open until Tuesday at like 5 o'clock. So we could come in, we came in I think at 3 and left around 1 because the scenes were at night. So, but we didn't have to do 4 in the morning to full time shoot. And when we were planning it, I kind of looked at the script and thought we could get it done in 1 day, but let's do 2. And because of that, after the first day, we had time to rehearse all of the choreography with the camera and the actors for the scene between the 2 main characters where they are dancing and flirting and stuff. And on the second day's shoot, we were able to have the singer of the song that they danced to come in, and we spent an hour shooting her singing at the bar and did a music video to accompany it, which was a nice little bonus for the same price. And that all, it was just easy because we had that extra time built in, which you never do. And because it was post-COVID, and I think the first time for everybody on our crew to be back on set, everybody was just really happy to be there and be doing something. We only run into problems in post. We'll get to that later. Yes.
No, it's funny, kind of similarly, because we were shooting, it was most of our casting crew's first job back out on set after COVID, that it was so much fun and everyone was really excited to be back doing it. And consequently, we delayed about 15 months from when we originally wanted to shoot, so we had so much more time in prep that we weren't counting on. So I feel like I had so many luxuries on this one because I usually shoot my own stuff. I had a DP on this. We had a few more people on crew than we normally do, so where normally I'm doing a lot of heavy lifting, I was behind a monitor, like it was like a real director is. I'm told. Yeah, exactly. It was really nice for me, No, and so it was great because everyone was really enthusiastic and we were really well planned because we had all this time. So it was, really a nice way to get back into being on set after a year and a half we make the movie. For me, one of the things that was interesting was that I had usually written stuff that was really heavily dominant on one performer before, and I usually had like a person I was writing for in mind, and this was very ensemble. which was, you know, nerve-wracking because, you know, knowing you have one really great performer you're writing for, you kind of get in that sweet spot and you let that person in. You know that in the edit you're going to go to them every time if you need something. But to cast an ensemble of really great actors and just see every, you know, and it's a comedy, so seeing everybody kind of get the score with a laugh, it was a great joy. It was really just so much fun to make the movie, especially because we had all kind of planned on it and waited for it for so long. So, you know, I had such a positive experience making it that way.
Positive stories.
Yeah, I was gonna say shit. Where do I begin?
Things blowing up and things being stolen. No, nothing.
Yeah, you're ready for this now. It's amazing that you can even finish a film sometimes. You know, with the obstacles that come to you. And while making Rub, I think I created a quote. There's a script that you write, a script that you shoot, and a film that you end up editing. And if you can get all three of those things to be somewhat in the ballpark of what you set out to do, you've accomplished something that not many people can do, you know? I have a laundry list of horrors that happened on the set of Rub, and it's also like, you know, you don't really plan the day to what's gonna go right today, it's what's gonna go wrong and how am I gonna tackle that obstacle. And one obstacle was one of the most pivotal scenes and characters of the film. Our actor Damas says I'm not coming to set because he's SAG, and he was on a production that he was shooting, non-SAG, non-union, had nothing to do with SAG actually. I don't know why I said that, but he had a project that was supposed to wrap on a Saturday. We were shooting on a Sunday, and he needed to do a pickup. I said, dude, we've been in rehearsals for a year and a half, going back to where you said we shot Rub in like 45 total days. But me, Micah Speyer, and our lead actress Jennifer Figueroa, we rehearsed for over a year, you know, to be on point. So when we got on set, we weren't wasting time, people's money, and location time. And this, excuse my language, asshole decides not to show up. I said, dude, we've met at a film festival, not this film festival. We've worked on other projects together. You're fucking dead to me, dude. How could you do this to me? I didn't just wipe my hands clean of him. We're still friends on Facebook. I haven't spoken to him since. But I made an announcement. I said, everybody, come pull together. I said, who do we know that is either Hispanic, Arab, or you know, dark-skinned Italian that could show up to set and is an actor that can learn these lines within like 6 hours. He's supposed to report to set at like 1 o'clock. I found this out at 8 in the morning. Okay. Josh Cromwell, my key PA, ran into the corner. I didn't know if he was going to vape or make a phone call. He comes out, he's like, I got the guy. His name was Mood Sabri. He plays the boss in the film in Rub. This dude came to set. I don't even know how he did it. I was on the phone, I sent them the sides. He came there within like 3 hours. We shot in Peekskill, New York, where I'm from. He lived in like Scarsdale. He shot the set and he knocked it out of the ballpark. And he was better than the dude. I don't even want to mention his names. I'm not like that. He was 1,000 times better. But the reason I casted him is because he has a face that you want to punch, you know. And that's why he was typecasted for the role. But Mood killed it in the role. That's one thing that went wrong. Wardrobe that we planted along the way and. In Goodwill. It's a one-of-a-kind piece. There's my late father's shirt that we is a scene in the film. I don't want to ruin it, but our lead characters are at Goodwill getting clothes. That we would plant these articles, and we're shooting guerrilla, even though we have permission to be there. And we're about to leave to go to get lunch, and the piece is gone. We still have like another day or two to shoot with it. So I'm like, everyone scatter and go look at people's clothing that they're buying. You know, I had to buy it back from this guy that was outside in the parking lot with it in his bag. I hope Michael comes wearing it today. It's like a teal like tank top. We had a car catch on fire. That was a rental. That was an thing that happened. And then we got blamed for it with the Caliber C's. That wasn't our fault. And then that car got pulled from us. So you're gonna make a film with a car, especially a period piece car, not that a Dodge Omni is a period piece car, but I guess it is. Make sure you own it because you know that Netflix show that's gonna pay that car $1,000 a day versus your 125. That car owner is gonna go that way. So we had that happen to us. A couple days of pickup shots, weather obviously, but you know. Through thick and thin, I made the best possible film that I could make for myself, and that's how I went into it. Someone asked me that question, why did you make your film? Do you have an audience? I said, I wanted to make the film for myself and know that I can actually do this. And I think everyone should come and see it tonight at 9 o'clock.
We also lit a Dodge on fire in my car.
There you go.
Just for fun?
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't mention it before. It only seemed relevant now.
I'm very curious about the good days.
There was a lot.
Maybe later.
There was a lot of good days. There was a lot of good days. I promise you that.
Yeah. I'm here like sitting and thinking because I wrote this piece, I produced it, I directed it. It's a combination we all know, but I wouldn't say do that. It's like wearing many hats on a small set is very challenging, and we were filming at home. So all the equipment was in one room. It's a very small flat. Everywhere where was something, so we always needed to move stuff. And we needed the whole way. For the people who know the film, it's like we needed this, and it was super tiny and packed. So that was very challenging. And then there's this huge window in front of the hallway, and the sun outside always changed because of the clouds. So we had like, I don't know, 6 different scenes in this hallway in one day. Like the aim was to film this in one day. And the sun was constantly changing, and we needed to change the clothes every time the guy goes upstairs because there are different scenes at the door, and so it was super challenging. So the sun definitely, and light, I mean everybody can relate to this, I'm quite sure. And then also first we wanted, it's a Christmas story, and first we wanted to film beginning of April, but then everything became so green so quickly, so we postponed to end of October, trusting that will work. And then especially that weekend it was super warm. It was like, it was summer. It was super summer. And we had this outside scenes, and one in front of the train station where he buys like a ticket to go to his brother's house, and then one where he kind of passes a lake. And he's wearing like this winter coat, but everybody passing him is wearing t-shirts. So we were filming, and I was like, I don't know.
Fix it in post.
I don't know. So, and also the trees just had too many leaves. And like, I mean, I know you can do things about that, but at some point you can't. So that are themes that we cut out. Like, we didn't need them in the end. Like, we could tell the story without it. But yeah, like weather and seasons, it's like, it's not easy. Yeah.
Your question was, what made me say I should have never did this before?
You keep translating my question.
That's what I hear.
But this time, maybe it could be positive this time.
Okay. So you asked me what was different than a music video. Well, when a music video said I was the subject, so I thought the guy holding the camera was the director. Like that. This was a learning experience through and through. I also put every dollar I had in savings. And I'm using my brother's house. He has a beautiful home. I use it for a scene. Day one, all these lights are set up, the camera's set up, sound guy who's a legend, he has Emmys and all of that, he's set up. Everything's amazing. I'm so proud. Like, wow, we're doing this. Shot one, take one, action. The actress forgets every single line. I feel so bad because she's such a wonderful lady, and I would work with her again. Absolutely. She looked at the camera and didn't say a word. And we chose to shoot her first because we rehearsed so much. We rehearsed so much that it was like, oh, we're gonna nail this. We're gonna be able to shoot everything. And we had another scene set outside at the same house. Action. She looks up and it's like, okay, crickets. And we're like, him and I, Trevor and I, we look at each other like, what's going on? what happened? Is this how it's supposed to happen on the movie set? This is my first time doing it. The sound guy, who is a legend, I go back there. He's like, I mean, you know, sometimes people get, you know, they get nervous. Okay, cool. So I go talk to her. Are you good? No, I'm good. Let's go. Action.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
I want to see these takes.
Yeah. I mean, she looks incredible because we had
Great
58 takes in one little 3-minute, but she was, okay, so it got to the point. So it was supposed to be 8 hours of the day, this dinner scene. We're at the 11th to 12th hour, and the sound guy's like, read it to her, line by line, and we'll edit it. So it's a table like this. You'll see the movie, hopefully you guys see it. You'll see who I'm talking about. I don't want to say her name because she's wonderful and you guys should use her because she picked it up at the end. She's sitting at the table like this. I sit here and I have the script. You're her. And I go, say A, B, C, D. Action. D, E, F. Everybody in the room now feels the tension because we've been here for 10, 11 hours. Just her. And everybody's doing this, you know, and we go piece by piece. Like, we finally get it. Well, I mean, okay, this is how crazy it got. And I feel so bad because I really like her and I'm going to work with her again. But we put it, she had to say a prayer. So her head is down like this. So we gave her the paper to read the paper. And she couldn't read the paper. This is my first day on the set. His first day on the set as a director with our money on the line at my brother's house. He has children that he made move out for the day, basically. And she can't read the paper. Imagine how I feel, because my money's on the line. And I'm paying the sound guy, I'm paying the gaffer, I'm paying assistant, I'm paying a boom operator, I'm paying everybody. Imagine how I feel. And then we had to go shoot the rest of the days, because remember, this is day one. Yeah, that's I got more. We can keep going, but I'm gonna let Summer speak. We can absolutely make a movie about making a movie. That's it.
I think I'm the only one on this panel who made a documentary that's in this festival, it seems. So I'm going to, translate the question in my own way, which is, what was really surprising to me about the process of making this documentary. And it's a very personal documentary, so there's a diaristic aspect to it. And what was so surprising, always as an actor, always being in front of the camera and just always feeling very natural with it. I never had the agency to actually pick up the camera and start shooting with it. And what I found was that the camera in the documentary process became this almost like a magical tool that became the reason to have conversations with people in my life that I wouldn't otherwise have. So, having a deep heart-to-heart conversation with a parent just for the sake of it may feel really out of the blue, because we can always find ways to rationalize out of it. But if you're making a project and you have this amount of time, you're making this documentary, you have the camera, everything that I wanted to say to my parents, anything that I ever wanted to ask them, anything that I wanted to find out about my grandmother, who also had dementia, who was in decline, the camera and the project became the reason for so much intimacy and so much closeness with my family that I didn't ever expect. And finally, in the same theme, the camera itself, it was surprising to see the way that people change in front of it. I'm natural in front of the camera because I've spent so many hours doing it, but when the camera is turned on someone, or even if there's an awareness of a camera in the room, people start behaving in all kinds of different ways. You can see certain scenes in my film. My grandmother was in a nursing home, and she had a woman who was working with her, like a nurse, who may have been undocumented, I don't know. But every time she's in the frame, she's like kind of, you know, like
Get the camera
trying to
face.
hide or something. That was like on the kind of awkward end. But then in other ways, like people, again, find this is something special. There's a reason for me to share something that I wouldn't normally share. They become more performative, which is, you know, good on one hand and sometimes not what you want on the other. But that was an amazing process, and I learned so much from it. So.
Question applied to documentaries, you answered it perfectly, so it doesn't matter that it's a documentary at all.
Oh.
But my next question is more for the fiction film, so I will have a special question for you at the end.
Sweet.
Okay, all right. So I was listening to a podcast today. It's a rewatch podcast. I'm not telling you the show, so you don't judge me. And there was an actress speaking, and she said that she had gotten, this was early in her career, and she had gotten this audition through doing workshops with casting directors, but she said how those things don't exist anymore because of the nature of how casting has changed now, and how you know, everything is, you put yourself on tape, you don't have the open casting calls like you used to and things like that. And it got me thinking, I'm not an actor, but from the reverse side of it, which is how casting has changed so much from the filmmaker side, from when, you know, my film was the opening night film at this festival 22 years ago. Time flies. And when I had like a casting director and I had actors coming in, and we spent weeks at this office and things like that. And I wanted to know, like, how did you approach the casting of this film to get the people that you ended up getting in your film? And I have a question for you somewhere at the end, so don't worry about it, this will apply. Okay.
All right. Mine was easy because I wrote Follower with the actors already in mind.
And that helps.
So that definitely helps. But in my experience doing a lot of films, Followers, I've lost count of how many, it's somewhere in the 20s of the short films I've done. I've lost count, but I've had moments where I've had to go to casting people for it. And also sometimes I'll cast people just looking at a great film at a festival, and I'll see what, you know, they're really good on screen. I'm like, oh, I'd like to work with that person. I could tell you though, if there's any actors here, what not to do is, you know, if I'm at a festival and you come up to me and you're like, so when are you gonna cast me in your movie? All right, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not. I'm just not.
Supposed to have a budget.
Now, you know,
But Scott, what if I fund your entire movie? We suddenly on your star.
there's you know,
That's when are you gonna hire me?
yeah, there's thug number 3 in the corner, even though there's no thug 1 and 2 in the script, but we'll just put that, no. And it's funny because that has actually happened to me where they've been like wanting to fund and they want to do certain things. So I mean, I have, with Follower in particular, it was an easier process because I knew the actors. Even Heather Drew was amazing in it. I've worked with Heather for 10 years. But I met Heather at a film festival. And you know, she really supported the film. And what she did is she told me, I'm an actor, I'm just starting out, you know, I really want to get into films, I love horror, I want to get into it. So I was like, all right, let me test her out. I was working on a whole bunch of things and I gave a project and I gave her a role with no dialogue just to see how she would act with it and how she would direct with it. And it's resulted in, you know, she's probably one of my best friends right now. So you know, you never know. That's one experience that I had in terms of that. But like I said, for me it's easy. I had a boring answer, tried to make it lively, but
No, but I think that's kind of that film 22 years ago, the lead actor who's in every scene in the movie, I cast him. He was the first person cast in the film because I had a short film at a festival. I saw him in another feature. I thought he was amazing. I went up to him at one of the filmmaker parties and I said, I want to get involved in a feature at the very beginning, and he ended up helping me develop it. It was a great process.
Awesome. That's cool.
I think I actually have a lot to say on this topic. So as an actor and as a director, I kind of hate self-tapes. I think they do not do the actors justice, and that without a redirection and any feedback, it's too rehearsed, it's too, and if they go off in the wrong direction, there's no pulling them back. For this, because it was still COVID restrictions, And because I know a ton of female actresses in their 40s and 50s who I've worked with before, both on stage and in films, what I did was put out a casting call, mostly for the young man, because most of the young men that I've directed in the past have aged out of that role.
Where did you put the casting call?
Actors Access and Breakdown Services. It went out to, and I don't think I did Backstage. I think it was just Actors Access and Breakdown Services. And we did a live audition, the initial audition for the men and for women that I had not worked with before that submitted through, or their agent submitted. And for the women that I knew, I asked them all to send in a self-tape. I'm like, I know your work, I know how you take direction, just send in something so that we can compare it. The woman we ultimately cast, her self-tape, one, I thought she was going to be too young, and her self-tape, she was not what I was looking for. But we talked afterwards, and I'm like, look, I know if you had been in the room, I would have given you a redirect, and you would have taken the direction, and it would have been good. And of course, this broke her heart. She was very upset, like, I can't believe I did it. Like, and I'm like, no, this wasn't judgmental. This was just telling you, because we had gotten into a huge debate about self-tapes anyway. And this is why I don't like them, because I know you're brilliant. And the same trap kind of came up for a lot of the actresses that self-submitted. So brought her in for the callbacks. I think we had 8 women, 8 men. And what I like to do is pair them up and do chemistry reads. So I told everybody to plan on being there for about an hour so that we could do different combinations. And Howard was non-union, did not have a lot on his resume, but when he and Janine came in and read together, the chemistry was so explosive. Like, there were 8 fabulous women that we had at callbacks, and there were a couple that I'm like, oh, these are this role is absolutely this person's. Like, before we did the session, I was 100% sure it was not going to be who we cast. But the way that the two interacted, and this is, I could never do an ultimate casting from tapes, because if I don't see them together, I'm not going to know. And I know people who have, and I don't understand how that works. So anyway, that was but yeah, Howard's brilliant. He's nominated for Best Actor, so thank you.
I can't tell if I'm, in a sense, similar or the complete opposite. I don't like auditions at all. I don't like auditioning live or self-tape. I find the process to be so different from what we're going to do in the film. So if you're successful at that, I don't know if that indicates any success going down. It's just, and so I have often written for people I've worked with. I mean, start working with someone somewhere. So how do you find them? But I end up writing a lot for people that I've worked with before that I want to work with again. I had in kind of similar, like, meeting people at festivals or seeing people in films. I had one actress that I saw in another film, filmmaker I'd become friends with. I watched his film. I had seen an actress in his film. I said, she's fantastic. He said, oh, she's the best. You got to work with her. I said, oh, that's easy. I'm going to get her in this movie. And then I try to take recommendations from other filmmaker friends. But I really have a hard time with the auditioning process in general, because I find it really hard to create something similar to what we're going to do working together. So I try to look at, I find, people will be recommended, or I'll find people, and then I watch the work they've done. I love to look at people's reels. I love to look at other films they've done, because to me that is so much closer to what it's going to be like than saying, here's a page completely out of context, just dazzle me, because who am I that you should want to dazzle me? So I like to look at the work people have done, and from that I'll approach people. I don't put out a call. I'll go one at a time. I'll say, this is a part. Would you like to do it? No? Okay. This is a part. Would you like to do it? And then I lock people in kind of one. It's probably wildly inefficient and stupid, but it's been what I've done. And I've had actors go, why don't you audition people? And I said, because the prospect of that makes me incredibly nervous. And I have no desire to engage in that. But I just kind of, like I said, I kind of, and then a big part of that is that once I put these people all in the place to do this, we do a table read, and then I'll do another pass on the script for voices, where if they weren't totally there, you know, we're gonna kind of meet hopefully in the middle. And like in this film, I met Jen Giles here and cast her as the mother of the family. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I know.
You should watch the movie.
Small world.
You should watch the film. You really should. She's fantastic in it. She's really funny.
She's a good friend of a good friend.
Okay, and then I cast Brian Donahue, who I met here as the father, and I did not. I mean, you know, obviously they're playing an estranged couple, and then in hearing the two of them, I was like, okay, there's so much more we're going to do with the two of them, you know, because they're just, you know, he's such a big guy, and he's such a huge presence, and she's so over the top and so funny, and so it was great because it was like, you know, like an idiot, I probably didn't realize what I'd put together. And then after hearing them, you're like, okay, we're gonna turn the volume up on this. And so I try to hopefully meet the actors a little of the way there, because I find the prospect of just being like, I have this in my head some way, you got to hit it, and you have no idea what that is in my head, by the way, because I barely know. So good luck, you know. So I try to take that approach of like, all right, we're gonna find it together in some capacity, and then I've just been really fortunate. I think I've worked with a bunch of really great people who have jived with that. It's worked that way.
Yeah, our films are only as good as the people who are portraying our words on that piece of paper.
100%.
You know,
Yes,
especially on the indie level of making films. I would agree with self-tapes. They are kind of weird. I will ask some people to do self-tapes from watching their reels and watching their work. With Rub specifically, I'd say about 90% of the film was casted with people who I've worked before in some capacity or another. And it's funny because our main character, Neil, played by Micah Speyer, who you said you know, he was literally the only person
that sounds accusatory. I bet he does know me. Right? You really do know him. Yeah.
Micah was the only, our lead actor. Was usually you have your lead actor, then you fill out the other roles with casting. He was the only actor that I didn't put a casting call out for. I had what I was looking for, and I went through thousands of pages, watching reels, watching auditions, watching not even self callbacks, but just play. How could you cast a lead actor watching a play? I did. I saw his range. I saw what he was able to do, go from dark to happy, happy to dark, and then it was divine intervention where I reached out to him. He loved the script. We started talking. This is right in the middle of like COVID, but we're like, fuck it, let's just get together, let's meet up. We got together, we started talking, and right then and there, I knew I had my guy. We started working on lines and working on the script. And then Jennifer, I worked with her on a few different projects over the years. And then I also had a couple roles in the film that I casted some people that have no acting experience at all, because I always look for like interesting looking people in life. I'm like, this guy has a really interesting look. I'm gonna put him in something. I always keep it in the back of my mind where if I have a role that will fit that person. So I casted it with a couple people that I grew up with, that my AD/best friend's like, this is gonna be a bad idea, dude. And then I was like, trust me, I got it. And he'll actually be here tonight. His name is Mikey Mazzilla. He plays Doug in the film. He knocks it out of the park. He's ecstatic. He has an IMDb page now. He's a first timer. But I like putting real people in film. I think it's sometimes it can go really well. It went in our case, and sometimes it could go bad. But it's all about working. It comes down to the director. It comes down to working with that person and working with that actor. But yeah, it's a different landscape right now. It's you don't need to have a huge casting call an agent to cast your film. That's what this is all about, is networking and meeting people and working with people the next time. So if you have an interesting look, I'm looking.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Like for my second short film, it was all first timers. I was just like writing it and kind of seeing who's fitting kind of around me, and then I just asked the people. And for The Neighbor, I knew the main character, the actor, from a different short film. So I approached him through a friend, and then we met for coffee, and that was it. And then for the second role, for Paula, I really wanted to have a diverse person, a woman of color. That was very important to me, to have a diverse story. And so I went to my friend's agency and just kind of looked through who they have. And then I contacted one of them, and we stayed in touch for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months in preparation, and we met in Berlin and etc. And then she called me 3 weeks before filming, and she was like, Asbirg, I'm very sick, like I can't. Like it breaks my heart, but I can't come to the production. And then I was like, okay, what am I doing now? Like shit. So I called a friend, she's a casting director, and I was like, what would you do? Like I have plan B, but plan B is not plan A, so like, and she was like, Asbirg, relax, like I'm gonna send you a few people, and then we can see from there. And then she sent me like 15 or 20 different faces, and there was Paula, and then we contacted Paula, and it was just perfect, like wonderful. Yeah.
I'm a big believer in holding people accountable. Like if you tell me you want to do something, if you say you want to flip burgers, let's go to McDonald's every day and practice. And one of my best friends that I grew up with, he went to acting class, acting school, because I told him you should act. I had nothing to do with film. He used to imitate everybody, and I was like, you should act. So he got into acting. I told him one day I'm gonna write something for you. So that was easy. That was the main actor. His co-star, he trains my son in basketball. He's also a friend of a friend, and now he's like one of my best friends because of how close we work. He was training my son one day, and he said, I think I'm going to get into acting. I started writing something, and that stayed in the back of my mind. When he said that, he said, I started writing something, I think I'm going to get into acting. I'm going to start practicing, stayed in the back of my mind. I started writing that. Trevor, my co-director, also knows him, and he was like, nobody else is allowed to do this role except for him. He fought for him. I was like, let's just see who else. He's like, no, nobody else but him. He ended up being spectacular. He stole the show. He's the second star, but he stole the show so that was both serendipitous. That was me holding him accountable. Then I did that Actors Access thing, and the wonderful lady who didn't remember all her words, she was one of two that Trevor and I, we had a long conversation like, do we take her or do we take the other lady? What were we talking about on set that day? Should have took her. Trevor, not only is he a big guy, he also has a little short temper. And we are outside, and everybody still to this day makes fun of Trevor losing his mind, like, we fucked up! Screaming outside. Screaming outside, we fucked up! Ah, we should have chosen, call her now! Like, okay. But, so we chose off of Breakdown Express. Shout out to them, they were great, super helpful. And then the other actress, a friend of a friend posted somebody on Instagram. I was like, oh, she has a look. I click on her Instagram page and it said actress in her bio. I messaged him and said, do you know her? Or did you just find her video? He said, yeah, that's my friend. I was like, cool, connect us. He connected us. It was quick. I said, send self-tape of these sides. She nailed it. She was like, I would love to do it. And then she happened to be from Long Island. He's from New Jersey. She happened to be from Long Island, so that worked out well. And she actually elevated everybody else. She went to acting school. She did all the hard parts, and she taught everybody during all our rehearsals. She taught everybody how to get better. And yeah, it just worked out. It just worked out well. Easy. That was the easiest thing. Casting.
Well, somewhere you didn't have casting. But
Oh, you're not casting.
But what you do have that people who know documentary know is that the work of the editor is so essential in taking all this material and shaping it into a story. Did you have an editor or did you edit it yourself?
Thankfully, I had an editor.
So could you talk a little bit about that relationship,
Sure.
how you found the person and how you work with the person? See, I did have a question.
Yeah. I was ready to flip the question and talk about the characters that I found
You can
in
do
my
that too.
story, so I'll just say something about that and then I'll talk about the editor. My film is it's like me, but I create a historical context. I didn't want to have just like academic talking heads. I wanted to have people who are actually living in the experience of being a part of this ancient transgender lineage. And it's not an exclusive culture, but you know, Southern Italy is a culture that's based in strongly based in community and family relationships. And if you're not known, then you're not known. And people aren't so quick to get to know you. So it took time to like meet a lot of people and see like who's like rising as someone that wants to be interviewed and wants to be in relationships. So that was one thing about that. And in terms of the editing, if you've seen the film, there's like a little bit of a love story that happens between my character and the videographer. The videographer also edited. So that, I mean, I didn't do the clicking like in Premiere, but I'm the one who kind of created the structure of the film and was able to take everything that happened over the 3-year production process and kind of put it into something that had like a 3 or 5 act structure. And that involved like posts, like note cards and like figuring out how to, you know, convey the personal story that my character undergoes while also weaving in a lot of the historical context, because it does have a strong kind of anthropological significance, but it's not an anthropological film necessarily. And so in the editing, we had to figure out, well, what are all of the things in Italian that mostly English speakers are going to need to understand factually in order for the significant climax to make any sense. So that was a big consideration that we had to do, like putting little breadcrumbs of factual information, little breadcrumbs of character development, because, you know, the story that we ended up telling is somewhat linear in its own way, maybe kind of like a funny spiral. But, you know, the actual experience of going back to Italy and discovering my roots and learning about this tradition is not all captured in the camera. Like, if that was a 5-year process for me going back and forth, and the camera was only there, you know, a handful of weeks throughout that period. So there was still quite a bit of, you know, cutting things around and piecing things around to kind of consolidate 5 years of spiritual growth into 83 minutes. But we had an editor at first who was a friend that I met. She was like, or they were maybe 6 or 7 years younger than me, and they had just started editing. And they had this kind of bougie corporate editing job, and I really liked them. And I was like, you know what? And I didn't want to really work much more with my co-director because of the whole love story that unfolded. And I was like, anybody else can edit this film. It can't be you. Like, anyone else that shows up, I took it as a sign of like goodwill. Like, I'm lucky. Like, a friend of mine edits and they just reappeared in my life. So they started editing and we kind of got into a great rhythm. I raised like $4,000, which isn't a lot for editing. That's about what I had at that point from what I raised from a grant. And after 8 weeks of editing, the film was not done, but this editor was trying to convince me that it was done. And I had never been a part of an editing process like this before, and I was just like, oh, is it really done? They were just like, yeah, it's done. Like, it's done. This is it. It's done. And I was like, I don't think it's done. But I also didn't have any money left. So thankfully, my co-director, Adam, he reappeared and was like, okay, like, I'll edit it. And so then we, you know, I was like, okay, let's do it.
Did you edit from the old editor's sequence and project files, stuff like that?
Well, that's the thing, is that this editor was not, they didn't have like any kind of formal training in editing. So they devised their own little hacks that were not necessarily translatable to any systematic editor. So it was about like $4,000 and 2 months of wasted time, except for the fact that I learned about what I wanted to say in the film. And a lot of time directing this person
You had to go through that to get to it.
Definitely. Definitely. And I realized, like, I understand the kind of editor that I want to work with now. Not someone that just wants me to tell them what buttons to press, but actually someone that's coming in with some kind of storytelling flavor. Because I don't think this person had developed theirs yet, unfortunately. And then they reached out to me 2 years later to be like, can you put my name in the credits?
Yeah, you're right. Asshole.
No thank yous to.
I was gonna say, if you give me back the money, I'd probably think about it.
I would have said I have 2 words for you. The second is you, but the first ain't thank.
All right, do we have questions for our filmmakers?
I'm curious, none of you mentioned music, and with all of our 3 films, music really played an important role. So if anybody just wants to talk about how they chose the music, did the music set the tone?
I would like, because I'm it's a quick. My husband made the music. He's a musician, and it's a really beautiful story. Because I also needed to go back to the sound design. I relate to you somehow. And the sound designer, the second sound designer, was asking me, so what's behind the music? And I was like, yeah, I just put it together. And then I came home and I was like, what's behind? Because I was working so much and never talked about this. It was so on point, it was so beautiful that I was just like, I take it, it's good. And then he explained to me that he took jingle bells and he kind of imagined what would it sound like if a person with dementia would try to play jingle bells.
That's cool.
Right? So this
Demonic song.
it's really nice, like the scene when he puts in the presents into the bags. There you can hear it, like, and also there's a specific sound when he's looking at the calendars. It's kind of like it kind of draws you into his world. So yeah, I would really love to. Like, that's what I needed to share.
That's awesome. Music with Rob, I composed a good percentage of the film, and my partner composed the other. He probably did about 60% of it. I did about 40%. Some stuff he worked on, like, this is just not working, and it's tough. How is it working with your husband? And you're lucky that you were like, it's awesome. Because I'm not married to my partner, but I was just like, yeah, this scene's great. This needs work. And then people get frustrated, like, this is just, I can't do what you want to do. It's like, all right, just scrap it, go back to start one, and we, you gotta go through hell to get to heaven sometimes. And we collectively in-house composed the entire film.
Punk?
No, it's like 9 Inch Nails on acid, I guess.
It's not just already.
That's like the soundtrack, sound design of the film, and there's one track actually. There's a big scene. I don't want to give anything away. That we had a Portishead track in there that we have for a festival run, but for our actual release, we went back to the drawing board and recreated a whole track, which we're going to release in August as like an old school 90s performance music video with like clips from the film and like the artists singing the song as well. But yeah, we did everything in-house, pretty much.
Similar to him in-house, as I said, I came from music. Before somebody told me that the scoring, it should start while you're writing the script. So I sent it over to a person who produces my music, and I told him the concept. He made a beat and became the theme song of the whole movie. And then my music director, who also toured with me, I told him the concept of the movie, but I said that this beat that is the theme song of the movie is now what we're using as the progression through it. It's an emotional sad movie. He's classically trained on the piano, so the whole thing through is a progression of that sound. It goes ding, 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 and he does it in different ways. He'll make it sad, he'll make it exciting, he'll make it happy, whatever. And we use that to progress it, and that's how we came up with the music based off the theme song before the movie was even made. Trevor actually said, "This doesn't sound like the movie." I'm like, "No, you gotta see it. It's in my head though. It's hard to show you what's in my head." He saw this trailer for the first time, and he was like, "Wow, you're a genius." After he then told me I was all kinds of stupid. Then he saw the trailer, saw it used how I had it in my head, and he said, "You're a genius." I don't know what I was talking about. That's the worst decision I ever made in my life. But yeah, that's how we came up with the music for it.
Yeah, kind of like how Secession has, if you guys watch Secession, how
Yeah, they have
the
a
theme song and it
Yeah.
just goes, it's just different variations.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in
Yeah.
that, like holding that.
Absolutely.
Throughout the whole thing, the
makes it,
concept.
exactly, it makes it flow.
Yep.
I was on, I think it was a theater playwriting group that I'm on in Facebook. They were having a debate of who writes with music on and who needs absolute silence. And to me, everything has a specific rhythm, a specific sound. I write with music, not with songs with lyrics, but just something. When I was writing Show and Tell Tango, I had tango music on, like just to give me kind of that feel. And then when we go to get the score, when I edit with to music so that I can feel that rhythm. And when we start working with the composer, it doesn't have to sound the same, but if the rhythm's off,
Because you get married to it. It's like, you get married to like a temp track while you're editing, and then whatever you're putting to replace it just doesn't sound right to you.
sometimes it sounds way better.
Okay.
But like if it slows down or speeds up significantly, or if it goes from a 4/4 to a 3/4, it's like, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. But there's definitely something in my head, like with Overdue, it was 40s and 50s big band. Because it takes place in a dive bar, and when I worked in dive bars in Times Square, they were always playing Sinatra and shit like that, and that's what it sounded like to me. My Dinner with Schwartzy was kind of punk rock. So like there needs to be that feel, or else it falls flat.
Music was a big part of my film because I accessed Southern Italian folk culture through the music and dance. But I didn't have the licensing to like use known songs. And so one of my favorite parts of the process was working with a composer to take some of the songs and kind of rewrite them while maintaining some of the like traditional rhythms, and then getting to layer in like, mystical siren chanting or different instruments. One of the inspirations for the soundtrack of my film was the one from Amelie. It's like kind of, right, it has like that ethereal kind of polka-esque kind of thing. Making the music was one of my favorite things about the film for me.
For me, it's a bit of a different challenge because Follower is so reliant on dialogue, and luckily I have a composer who I work with regularly, Barbara, who I can, whenever I work with her in many different ways. It can go either way. There's been times in the past where I've given a temp track and I said I'd like something similar to this. It's like I remember one time I gave her, with one film, a previous film, I gave her a 9 Inch Nails instrumental track, and I said, I'd like this, but, minus this part, just kind of focus more on it. But with Follower, one thing I did tell her when I sent her for the music, she asked me, she's like, what tone are you looking for? And I said, for me, it was the one film that really influenced it, both in dialogue and in tone, was Silence of the Lambs. So I gave her a couple of bits from the soundtrack from that, and she was able to provide beats with it. The interesting part was that when she put in, like she gave me her track, and she usually gives me like a track that lasts the entire length of the film, and I put it in. And I'm like, it's great, but where she put it in was not exactly where I felt it should have been put in. But I have a really good relationship with her, and I told her up front, I said, it's great, but I'm gonna move it around in a few different places. And I said, are you okay with that? And she was like, yeah, it's absolutely fine. And it was good to have that marriage with it. As a writer, talking about films, I always make a soundtrack whenever I write a story. And it's funny, I make a soundtrack to listen to it and get prepared for it. When I'm writing, I need to be silent. But I'm always, like, listening to a soundtrack always gets me to get it. And yes, there's a lot of 9 Inch Nails in Boy's head. So I always have like a 9 Inch Nails or Queen song somewhere in there. So, and I'll tell people, like, here are the artists in my, in the script I'm writing, and try to guess what it's about. And to this day, nobody ever freaking guesses what it is. So, that's that.
Maybe one more question out there?
advice would you give to somebody just starting out who wants to become a filmmaker?
Who wants to jump on that one?
Surround yourself with people who know more than you.
Always be learning
Yeah.
at all times. You don't know everything, even if you know everything. You don't know anything.
And you don't know what you don't know.
And you don't know what you don't know until it slaps you in the face.
Be a sponge, soak it all up, surround yourself with like-minded individuals that are on the same mission as you are, whatever level you're at. It's always good to work with friends too, you know, just because someone has a great camera and a great lens or whatever, you want to work with your buddies, your girlfriends, and your pals. And if you're spending, I learned this a long time ago, if you're spending sometimes 12 to 15 hours a day with somebody, you got to be able to have a conversation with them on a different level and just be buddy-buddy with somebody versus, oh, you have a great camera? Because I've been down that route, working with the DP I never worked with before, but he liked the script, and we went out there and made a film. The film came out great, but I never worked with him again because of the experience. Exactly, it's about relationships. It's people forget that it's a business. It's a film business, but it's also it's a relationship business also. You know, relationships go a long way in this industry. So make as many contacts as you can, and
Have fun too.
and never give up and have fun.
And realize that things will go wrong. Don't focus on what happened that went wrong. Keep looking at the solutions, and usually it's for the better. Ultimately, and you're always learning how to avoid that mistake on the next one.
In my life, I call it going into anti-producer mode, right? Like something will go wrong and it's completely unrelated, and I'll start trying to problem solve. People look at you and I'm like, when you've done that for as many years as I've done that, like you find answers. You can't go on what went wrong. It's like, how can we fix this?
Yeah, and also believe in yourself, because what I often say is there are so many stories that you can tell, but there are certain stories that only you can tell, right? And we are all here, and there are many stories, but like there are things that only you, from your perspective, from your background, whatever, like what you heard, what you saw, you know, it's only you, and look for that one, right?
I would just add to that, just do what you want to do. Believe in what you want to do, and I've had a conversation recently with somebody about wanting to give me money, and they said, why should I give you money on the side from, you know, somebody else? And I kind of said, you know, do one of one things. You can either go with that other person and follow a trend, or you can work with somebody, you know, like me, or obviously everybody here, or beat a trend, you know? And I've seen so many people try to follow that trend, and they get into that sort of desperation mode where it's like, oh, this is going well, I have to do something like that. When you do that, you lose a part of your own identity, and you forget why you made that film in the first place. And I've seen so many people fall down that path and never recover from it. And they get so many bad experiences from it. And I nearly went through that path myself. And it took a while, it took a long time for me to get out of that. And the main reason why I do it, and I hear a lot of people say, oh, it's selfish when you do it. No, it's not. If you do this because you love it. And everybody here does what they do because they love it more than anything else. And, you know, and they also want, like with me, I just want to entertain as many people as possible. And, you know, just to get it out there, to enjoy seeing what a lot of us work so hard to do. So if you can do that, then you'll be fine. And, you know, and one other thing I always try to say, I get it from my advice, always be full of wit, never full of shit.
One more time, full of wit and
never full of shit.
I'm really thinking about what you said because it's so true about anytime you're in a creative business, and especially film, people put pressure on you to do something that fits into a box, right? Like, oh, this type of film is getting funded, this type of film is getting distributed. No good art ever comes, and no good commerce ever comes from people following that rather than what they actually want to do, because we all have different talents and levels, right? If there's someone out there who wants to make that kind of movie, they should, but that may not be for you. I think that's a really great piece of advice. Maybe time for one more question? Yeah.
What are your biggest inspirations in movies?
Ava DuVernay.
Scorsese, Tarantino, Spike Lee, because I'm black. What? You can tell. Spike Lee, Ryan Coogler, Ava DuVernay.
Paul Thomas Anderson, the Safdie brothers these days, Harmony Korine, Scorsese, Tarantino. No, I'm forgetting somebody. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
I like Michael Mills, I like Hal Hartley. I guess writer directors. I'm always kind of more drawn to.
I mean, aside from usual, everybody that I've heard, Scorsese, Tarantino. For me, Jonathan Demme was a big one for Follower. I'm trying to think of else. Tarantino especially, Ridley Scott, Tim Burton. God, the list can go on and on. Also, William Friedkin, Coppola. God, I can be here forever. I'm trying to think of it always, but it's interesting as the years. It always changes because it's always like you can name like somebody and forget somebody. It's like I know I'm going to forget somebody like in an hour. I'm going to be like, oh, that's right, But it also just shows the wealth of what everybody does. But I mean, if any of our influences are not your own, then that's fine. Whatever influences you, if that's enough to get you going, then that's great. There's never a wrong answer for that. So.
I'll definitely echo Tim Burton and Baz Luhrmann. I think the colors, and I don't know why I'm blanking. Who directed I Heart Huckabee?
David Russell.
I like his work. I know there's opinions about him, but I like his work. But so but one of the things that I always.
That's what I was going to say. You and I are very similar.
That not necessarily film directors, but people like Tina Fey and Lucille Ball, who are writers, directors, actors, producers, who can kind of create something, telling stories and from various angles. That speaks to me because that's kind of what I like to do.
The three I were going to say were Nicole Holofcener, Hal Hartley, and Cameron Crowe.
Oh wow, yeah, I definitely Crow. Yeah. You should really watch my film.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much to everyone for coming. 1:30. There's going to